Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Calvin Tobin Show. I am your host, Calvin Tobin. Today we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. All right, money goes a long way for everybody. And players of the offseason from the NHL and the NBA, players are continuing to get paid the big bucks. Now, Damian Lillard just signed a huge 2-year extension contract, and what he got was a 2-year extension worth up to $122 million. And in totality of this full new contract, it equals up to a 5-year, $270 million contract, which is the same as Nikola Jokic. And now, with Damian Lillard's new contract, in those final 2 years, in that 4th year, he's going to get paid $58.8 million. And then in his 5th year, he's going to get paid $63.3 million. Absolutely absurd kind of money. And based on right now, that is the most getting paid for one full year, as in a $63.3 million year. That is just ridiculous. But Damian Lillard is worth every single dime, and is now the 9th player who is getting paid $193 million contract or more. Now, Dame is worth every dime, but with him being in Portland, it is a really bad idea for him, because we all know that how badly he wants to stick this out and get Portland a ring, and he wants to be that loyal player and stick to the grind and not be like all these other players, all these other superstars who are constantly flipping team to team to team to get potentially more money and get an easier chance at a ring. But this is really bad for Dame, because the way it is, Portland is always in a rebuild. And now with CJ McCollum gone, it's always looking that way no matter what. And it's even worse now because Portland is showing that they have that kind of money to pay anybody that they want and get them there, because they just paid two other players giant contract too, as they just signed Nurkic to a 4-year, $70 million contract, and Simmons to a 4-year, $100 million contract. Neither one of them is worth that money, especially Simmons. He is not worth $100 million, not worth $25 million a year. Now, to a point, Nurkic is, because that does average out to $17.5 million a year, so that's fine right there. But Portland, with the kind of money that they're giving Damian Lillard and Nurkic and Simmons, this shows that they could have easily went into the free agent market and possibly got Rudy Gobert before he went to Minnesota, and possibly get Kyrie Irving if he ends up not joining the Lakers, even though he is trying to force himself there, wanting to rejoin LeBron. But here's the thing. What if KD joined Portland? Now, that would be an interesting duo right there. But with Damian Lillard, this is, like I said, this is not a good idea. He needs to leave Portland, because if he stays in Portland, he's going to end up like Allen Iverson or possibly James Harden, where he's going to be one of the greatest players to ever play in the NBA and never get a ring. Now, if KD potentially ends up signing with Portland, even though that is most likely not going to happen, that could be one of the scariest duos that we ever seen. Now, let's say that Kyrie does not join the Lakers and LeBron. Ooh, that would be an interesting trio right there. Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving, and KD. Boy, would that be a duo to be watched, or a trio to be watched, because then Damian Lillard finally has the help that he can get, and he can finally get past the second round. He's normally a first round exit, and sometimes gets to the second round, and it's practically a perfect first round for the Portland Trail Blazers. But as we all know, that doesn't normally happen, and he's normally a first round. He usually only gets to the first round, let alone the second. Now, the second that Kirill Kaprizov can get home to the U.S., the Minnesota Wild will be relieved, because right now he's in a bit of a predicament, because he originally left Russia to go to Dubai to fly back to the U.S., but he was denied that. And then after trying to do that, he tried to go an ocean way by going across the Caribbean islands all the way back home, but he was also denied that as well. Now, there are rumors that it could be that he just doesn't have a working visa. But here's the thing with that. During the pandemic, Europeans and Russians didn't have to use that. The U.S. consulates had inundated visas, and they didn't have to like deal with all this working visa stuff. But that was during COVID-19 and the pandemic, which is a whole different story. But here's also the thing with Kirill Kaprizov, is he may have purchased a fraudulent military ID. So there's a chance he could go to Russian prison, or this whole thing based on that situation could have been just a misunderstanding of like what he got, and he didn't mean to do it, and then this whole situation can get resolved. But it sounds like in general all he has to do is just get a working visa, and then he can be on his way home back to Minnesota, and everything can be safe and sound, and all the situations can be resolved, and there will be no more issues. Now, the NHL offseason continues to give players big contracts, as 4 players made huge signings yesterday and today. As of right now, the players that just made some signings is goalie Ville Husso, just signed with Detroit on a 3-year, $4.75 million average annual value contract, and then Tony DeAngelo signed a 2-year, $5 million average annual value contract. And then we got Adrian Kempe, who signed a 4-year, $5.5 million contract with the Kings. And then Philip Forsberg re-signed with the Nashville Predators for an 8-year, $8.5 million contract. Now, Husso went to Detroit, and Tony DeAngelo went to the Flyers. Now, who are the biggest winners of these trades? In order, to me, it goes Philadelphia, Detroit, Nashville, LA. Now, here's why it goes in order. For one, with the Flyers, they just got a fantastic forward in Tony DeAngelo, who's been a part of a superior winning organization over the last 4 years with the Carolina Hurricanes, and was part of a 54-win Hurricane team win last year that got very far in the playoffs. And Tony DeAngelo can bring that firepower. He can bring that winning attitude to the Flyers, because the Flyers were in last place and had the worst division in the Metropolitan Division last year. So Tony DeAngelo can bring an all-new type of heat to the Flyers and get them back up to winning ways, and see if they can, and help them get back to the playoffs. The second one with Detroit is signing a great backup goalie in Ville Husso, who had a 25-7-6 record, and he was a dominant backup goalie for Jordan Binnington and the Blues last year, and had his fair share of play in the playoffs last year. With him going to Detroit, he has a huge chance to be a starting goalie and get Detroit back to its own winning ways when they had Steve Yzerman and Ville Husso being a young guy along with a new young star in Lucas Raymond. The Detroit Red Wings can only go up from here. Now, the third winner is the Nashville Predators with them signing Filip Forsberg. He's going into his 11th year, and he had a career notch and had a huge feat in getting 84 points for him last year. It was a career high and a lot of more production for himself as a great player for the Predators. The only issue is that the Predators significantly overpaid Forsberg. He is not worth $8.5 million a year. Maybe around $5.5, $6 million, not nearly $9. But he signed for 8 years, which is plenty of time for him to live up to that contract, and we'll see how it goes. Because the Nashville Predators did get to the playoffs last year, and Josie and Forsberg were at an all-time high in production and skill level. So let's see how much farther the Predators can go starting next year. And now, my final winner, which is the LA Kings in signing Adrian Kempe. He is a great young star. $5.5 million a year, that is the perfect amount of money, and he is only 25, 26 years old. And is a great young star. The LA Kings are also one of the youngest teams in all of the NHL right now. And Kempe is a great young player to build around, and he can help the LA Kings get to the playoffs year in and year out for years to come. Now, the Atlanta Braves was building their lead the entire game against the Washington Nationals, and Charlie Morton was a huge help for the Braves as he allowed practically nothing for the 7 innings that he pitched, only allowing 2 runs, 4 hits, and struck out 7 batters. The Braves went absolute domination mode, winning 12-2 against the Washington Nationals, and multiple players balled out as well. And what was really great is Ronald Acuna Jr. was able to get out of his slump by hitting his 3-run dinger, and in totality getting 1 run, 3 RBIs, and that 1 dinger. Acuna is out of his slump. Now let's see if he can keep this going. But the most dominant player in this game was Harris, because he went perfect through the entire game. He went 4 for 4, had 4 RBIs, 4 hits, and had 1 dinger. Harris was absolutely dominant, along with 3 runs. Harris just went absolutely beast mode, and there's a good chance he's going to get higher up in the batting order as time goes on. Because now the first half of the year is completely over, and we're about to enter the All-Star break. And what's really cool about this All-Star break is there were 2 special All-Stars nominated, and that was Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols. And what's really cool is Albert Pujols is a All-Star in his last year. Now, I don't know if this should really count as an All-Star, because he didn't actually get voted as an All-Star except for Manfred pushing these guys to that game and making them an All-Star for themselves. But what's really cool is after this All-Star break is done and when the season is over, I believe that, and it might seem obvious to a lot of people, but I believe that Albert Pujols played one more year just to see if he can hit his 700 home run, and nothing would be cooler to end your career on exactly 700 home runs and being the fourth player in MLB history to have 700 home runs in his career. Now, he would be the fourth player to ever do it, like I said, and he'll do it in 22 seasons. Multiple other players did it in 22, 21, 22, and 23 seasons as well. Let's see if Albert Pujols can do it. I'm hoping he does it because nothing would be a lot more cooler than ending a career on that type of feat. All right, that's the end of the Calvin Tobin Show. Please subscribe to my channel at Calvin Tobin Show so you don't miss out on any sports media whatsoever. And please follow me on Instagram at Calvin Tobin Show as well so you don't miss out on any sports news whatsoever. And